Everybody, welcome to the first in a Bloomz Arthouse Art Café chat. Now, before I do anything else, I have got to invite two other people onto the chat. So let's have a little look. Let's invite people along. We've got two others to invite, so we're going to invite Vicky. Give me a second while I invite wonderful other two artists. And there we are. So we have Vicky on the move, Vicky. Now, how are you? And we should have Cindy joining us any moment now. And there's Cindy. Look, I'm bigger than the rest of you. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? I don't know why that is, but how are you both?
Good.
All good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I'm sorry about the car background.
Well, this just shows you things. This shows you how determined we are not to miss a live. It shows you how passionate we are about our art. And it shows you that we'll do anything to promote ourselves. Because I'm in an empty house, about to move house, so it's echoey as anything. Cindy's about to go to bed, I presume, and in Australia. And Vicky, you're down in Hampshire?
Down in Hampshire, just kind of en route home.
Come a bit closer to the camera, Vicky, if you can, because we're seeing you in a distance. It's like you're at the back of a bus.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Wrinkles, that's why.
As Steph just said, Bloomz on tour.
Bloomz on tour.
So
oh,
before we get on with our wonderful chat this morning, because we all want to chat to each other about our art, find out about what we're doing, find out about the wonderful show coming up. Just a little bit of a background for everybody that's just joining us. This is the first of a Bloomz Arthouse Art Cafe chat. And this is all because at the end of this month, we're putting on the annual Bloomz International Online Art Show, an art show like you've never seen before. If you don't know anything about it, then go to the bloomz.co.uk. That's the Bloomz, BLOOMZ, the bloomz.co.uk. Find out all about this wonderful online art show where you can visit live artists like Cindy, like Vicky, myself in our studios around the world. We've got Australia covered, we've got Switzerland covered, we've got Italy covered, we've got Scotland covered, and the UK. So there's lots of artists all live in their studios, and you can go and you can chat to them live, just like we're going to have our little chat here today. I've got to stop saying this morning, Cindy. Apologise if I do. And lest you should fall asleep, let's go with you first, shall we?
Sure, but I'm pretty sure I can stay awake just
because you're in Melbourne, aren't you? And
I am.
You're a watercolor animal, well, not just watercolor, but you're an animal artist, watercolor and acrylics.
Correct.
But you're also a soul alchemist.
Yes.
And we're desperate to find out more about that. Tell us a bit about what you do, how it all started.
Oh, that's a long story. We don't want all of that right now.
Well, no, but praise it a little bit. Just a little bit.
Sounds so intriguing.
Okay. So, I started my artistic journey when my husband was very unwell. That basically started me painting regularly, and it just grew from there. During that time, I also started down the track of my spiritual journey, and I haven't stopped. Basically, I have kept going, learning more and more and more. And with what I've learned and what I've discovered and what I've been able to do with regards to healing my own inner self and everything, I have now done different trainings and everything so that I can help everybody else in the same way. So I offer Akashic Records work where we can discover past life issues that may have carried forward into today. I introduce people to their spirit animal guides so that they can have that connection and support when they need it. I do energy coaching work that can help you with personal life, relationships, business, whatever you need. basically.
The amazing,
I've also studied Reiki now too.
yeah,
So.
the amazing thing is that you've combined that side of it, the soul alchemy, the spirit animal, the Akashic records, with your art in a very unique way, because your art is born out of all this that goes on while you're painting it, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's interesting because more and more the spiritual side is coming out in my artwork more and more. Every time I'm painting now, I'm getting, dare I say it, because then you're going to ask me to explain it, light code messages that I paint into the painting.
We don't want to explain too much, because what we want people to do is to come and visit you in your
That
room
is
at
a
the
good
show.
idea. They can come and find out what that means, but basically there's a special message encoded in every painting that I'm creating nowadays.
Wow.
So yeah.
Amazing, because I've watched you work over the last 3 years is it now. You do a lot of time lapse on Instagram, and so I encourage everybody to go onto your page and look at it, because it is amazing how a painting comes together, and to be able to see that on there, but also now to be able to speak to you at the end of this month. And people will have different questions, I'm sure, to ask you. I mean, just looking behind you now, you've got, is it a she-bree behind you?
A bishri, yeah.
A bishri. Now, what's the name? That's the tiger behind you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
What is it?
He,
has that got a meaning, a she-bree?
yes, it does. No, I've gone blank, haven't I? That's terrible. Beauty who is fearless.
Beauty who is fearless. Oh,
Wow.
wow. Yeah. It's nice because people will look at that and they will, like all art, isn't it? Like everybody's art, people will see something different in that piece of art.
Absolutely.
And you work in both watercolor and acrylic. Which do you prefer?
Really, I can't answer it because I love them both for different reasons.
Yeah.
I love my acrylics, probably because I've worked with acrylics for so many years, it's not funny, and work very closely with Color Art, who I've noticed has jumped online. They're an American company that make a lot of pigments and everything, and I work closely with Leslie, the owner.
And that's Color Art.
Yeah, we have become very good friends over the years. Yeah. And like we have discussions back and forth, Leslie and I, about colors to add to the range and things like that, and just little bits and pieces like that. And it's just amazing to have that close connection with such a wonderful company, to be able to have input, even in the smallest ways.
That's amazing.
As to product, development and things like that. Leslie is so talented.
Because you're also
amazing.
So helping other artists as well, ultimately.
Exactly.
One question, I don't want to hog the mic. I know Victoria's probably got questions to ask you, but what makes you decide when you're starting a painting whether to use acrylics or watercolor? Is it something you pre-plan, or do you just get the canvas or paper there and think, actually, I'm going to use acrylics today or watercolor, or is it the subject matter?
I actually decided, it's sort of a decision straight away when I decide what I'm going to paint. Don't mind Henry, we're used to Henry coming and getting in the way. And
it wouldn't be the same without Henry.
Cat's tail, don't they?
Wouldn't be the same without Henry on Alive.
Yeah. But yeah, I decide pretty much the same time I'm deciding what the subject is going to be. I decide, because I have to decide paper or canvas. Because even if some of my watercolors, I will actually wrap watercolor paper around stretcher bars to make a watercolor canvas, but it's still watercolor paper. So I have to decide which one, like right there. at the start. So as I'm picking the subject, it just comes to me.
This is it. This is these are the questions that you're going to get asked a lot when people come to see you in your room, because to me, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't have a clue because I don't paint, so I wouldn't have a clue. Vicky, have you got any questions you want to throw at Cindy?
Where did you get your references from, Cindy?
As the reference images,
Yeah.
are I paint from photographs, and they're either photographs that I've taken. I volunteer at my local zoo, so I have ready access to beautiful animals on a regular basis.
Jealous.
And I also have a couple of friends that are really good photographers, who have given me permission to use their photographs as well. So I have plenty of reference images available to me of whatever I need, pretty much.
Fantastic.
So, yeah,
I love your work.
yeah, I'm very lucky, very lucky in that.
It must be wonderful to work around animals. I mean, who doesn't love to be in the same space as an animal?
That the environment at my local zoo is really amazing. The zoo is, I know that some animal lovers out there get upset at the thought of zoos of animals not being in the wild, etc., etc. But my local zoo is very much focused on conservation of species and those sort of works, and they are very much about giving the animals choice and not making them do anything they don't want to do. They're just amazing, and several of the animals that we have at the zoo would not be alive if they were in the wild.
Yeah, the breeding programs.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like our cheetah at the local zoo, Kalinda, which you can't quite see, is the painting just to the side there that you really can't see. You can just see the rusty edge color. She has a medical condition that she would not have survived at all without the medication that she's given daily. So, you know, zoos do, well, most.
Yeah, I think
the zoos in my area do really good work. I don't know how.
A lot of, I mean, zoos got bad press many years ago, but I mean, so many zoos now have gone over to the conservation breeding programs.
They have.
There's a wonderful zoo in the south of Ireland, Cork Zoo, and I went there quite a few years ago, and it wasn't anything like the zoos were when I was growing up in the late 60s and 70s. That these animals just look so happy. And there were animals there that would have probably not been extinct, but on the way if it hadn't been for these breeding programs.
Exactly.
They're wonderful.
Like the tiger is my favorite. So you've got me onto a subject that I like to talk about. Sorry. The tiger is my favorite animal out there. And there, it's so sad to say, there are actually more tigers currently in captivity than there are alive in the wild.
Wow.
That is sad.
And it's like about 3 times more.
Yeah.
It's something silly like that. It's about 3 to 4 times more in captivity than there are in the wild.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it's so sad.
But if your paintings can just make people aware of these things, and going back briefly to your soul alchemy, I can attest to the spirit animal guide because I went through a session with you over Zoom, I think it was, and my spirit guide was a black panther. Wow. And it was amazing, the most amazing experience I think I've ever had thinking about that sort of thing, is because it was just, because I'm quite a skeptic, or I was more of a skeptic on things years ago, until just over the last year I've learned more about the universe and channeling and all that sort of thing with Steph. But I was always, you know, it's like I could never be hypnotized, I didn't think, or I could never do what you did with me, take me to another dimension type of thing and meet up. But it was just amazing. And you did a lovely painting for me. of my, which was absolutely spot on. And the amazing thing about that, Vicky, was that whilst I was going through this process with Cindy, Henry jumps in as soon as my spirit animal came into my sort of dream space. I'll say Henry jumped on to and started to meow, and it was just amazing. This is sixth sense of animals, isn't it?
Henry's quite intuitive and jumps in at the most appropriate or inappropriate time.
Yeah.
When a spirit animal comes in or something like that, especially if it turns out to be some sort of cat.
Yeah.
Big cat or whatever. Yeah, he always senses it and jumps in and is there to greet them as well.
Brilliant.
And
It's brilliant. So can people visiting your room at the end of April see anything new? Will you be working on a piece while you're in your studio?
I will probably, yes, because being an Aussie and some of the show sessions are like 4 a.m. my time.
You are staunch.
I will have work there to keep me awake in case there's nobody to chat to.
You're a stalwart,
So
you are. Absolute stalwart. You get up at the most ridiculous times just to be a part of us. And Vicky, you are one of our guest artists for this show. We're very thrilled to have you along. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. Sammy, one of our other artists, we were all, looking for people to be put forward. And when we looked at your art, it's just amazing, because you class yourself probably as a traditional oil painter, but I think there's something wonderful about appreciating all different sorts of art, all different mediums. And you are an oil painter. You paint rural scenes, animals, flowers. Tell us a bit about how all that started.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Well, I was one of those sort of fairly reclusive kids who spent all their time drawing and writing and plastering my bedroom walls with pictures of animals and a lot of horses, I must admit. And I went on to do art A level, applied to art college and got I was offered several places, but I then had a major wobble and thought, oh gosh, if I get an art degree, I won't be employable and I need to earn a living. So I went down a very different route, but always loved my art so much, and carried on drawing. I did illustration for a magazine for 6 years.
Wow.
And when that terminated, which was
that in the same sort of art that you do now, the illustrations? Or?
No, it was much more cartoon based, funnily enough, and it was mainly animals interacting with people. It was great fun. It was so much fun to do. Loved it. But it was because I was doing that as well as working, it was quite time consuming, so I didn't have time for fine art at the same time as the illustration. So when that ended, I got back into fine art again, but that was through this really mad event in which I fell in love with a piece of music called the Barn Owl by Janacek. I don't know if anybody knows it. It's a gorgeous piano piece, and I was searching for this music on YouTube because I didn't have Spotify. I think that's what it boiled down. I was trying to play the music and went on YouTube, and they had matched the piece of music, the Barn Owl, with this fantastic painting by Canada called Twilight in Winter.
Oh, right.
The piece of music so beautifully harmonized with the painting, I just thought, I want that painting. Now, obviously the painting is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it's hanging in, I think it's in a museum in Prague.
So you sold your house and bought it, did you?
So I searched online to get a print of Twilight in Winter, and we did manage to get one, but it was awful. It was such a bad reproduction. And then I asked an artist friend if he could paint it for me. And he said, oh no, I wouldn't even want to try. So I thought, well, I have to have this in my house. So I thought, oh no, I'll try and do a reproduction of Twilight. And I did it, and obviously it's not quite up to scratch, but it got me back into fine art again.
Wow.
So it was a random and circuitous route back into the fine art journey. And having painted or done my little pastiche of Twilight in Winter, I thought, well, I'm loving this so much. This is my heart. This is what I grew up doing, and it feels true to myself. So I really wanted to just paint and paint what's inside. So I started painting. Astonishment, people started buying, and yeah, it's gone from there. So sorry, that's a really long and rambling answer.
We just lost you for a second toward the end. Your connection went a bit, but we got 99% of that. Really, I mean, it's amazing the things that happen that get us on another journey, isn't it? On another, absolutely. Just when we think we're on the journey we're going to be on for the rest of our days, something happens and you go off on a tangent, and you just got to let that happen. You just got to let the universe take you down the road that it wants to take you down. And funny, because there's things that I always pick up when I'm talking to artists, and the moment you started to talk about that got you back into art and what you love, you can see your face lighting up. It's like an inside thing, isn't it? Where we just can't help it. We talk about our art, and the bit that makes us passionate, you just can't help it. It comes out, which is lovely, because we should all be ourselves and not be afraid of that. So, like we asked Cindy about her inspiration, do you work live in the field, or do you photographs?
I haven't been brave enough to paint in plein air yet, but that's what I want. That's one challenge I'd like to take up this summer. But no, my inspiration is mainly from getting lost on dog walks. So
love it.
Lost, I'll just pick up objects that attract me, which will normally be something like a snail shell or a feather, or a primrose or something like that, and then I'll follow the dog home, because the dog always knows the way home and I never do.
Dogs have got GPS, haven't they? Yeah, and cats.
Absolutely, she has. So inspiration is never a problem. Ideas are never a problem. It's execution, which I think most artists can relate to. In fact, my post this morning was about a painting I've really been struggling with, and it would always be good to hear other artists feel that, sometimes you feel, oh yes, this has gone really well, everything about this has worked, and sometimes you think, why what have I done? So, but everyone is different. Everyone is its own baby, if you like.
It wouldn't be the same if everything worked out perfectly first time, because you wouldn't have you wouldn't have that excitement when it goes right.
That's,
you must feel the same, Cindy, with yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sometimes I'll go back to a painting day after day after day and not be able to figure out why it doesn't look quite right. Like, something looks not quite right, but I can't put my finger on it. And then, 5 days later, after looking at it every single day or something, I'll figure out, the shape of the eye is not quite right. Adjust that and the painting looks great. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's all those little things that happen to me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the same for you, but yeah.
Sometimes we can't just put our finger on it. Now, do you have a studio at home then, Vicky?
I do, if you can count a couple of little rooms as studios, yes.
That's fine. Yeah, that's. And when we.
Oh,
go on.
Can I? What got you into wacky lamps, Steve?
See, this is the struggle I have when I'm talking to what I still call real artists, because I get so involved with thinking about what you two do, that when anybody asks me that, it's sort of, I didn't have any schooling in the lamps I built. I was never into art in that sort of way, except, as Steph will often remind me, I was in art and design in a way, because I was a landscape garden designer for 25 years, designing people's gardens. So when I look back on it now, I suppose I was an artist in a way then, but in a different sort of way, because I was designing borders for people, painting with plants, really, where you've got, and I used to always treat it as a stage where you've got your star performers, you've got your chorus line, you've got your cameo parts. These are all the plants that I used to include. So that was, I suppose, the arty bit of my career. And then I stopped doing that, must be 5-6 years ago, really. And Steph started to get really into her needle felting and wanted to do exhibitions and shows. As Steph just said, everything led to where we are today, which is absolutely true. You know, everything leads, as I mentioned before, that direction the universe has planned for you. Don't worry with the cursed hows and whys and whens. Just, you know, concentrate on what you're going to achieve in the end. And in a weird way, this what happened because Steph wanted to do some shows and exhibit, and you just get these basic spotlights. And I said, oh, well, tell you what, I'll make some lamps to brighten up the stand, look a bit different. So I made some book lamps and some bottle lamps, I think. And that was great. We did the show and it was fine. And then at the end of the show, somebody wanted to buy these lamps. Well, I never really intended to sell them. They were just there to brighten up the stand. So I thought, oh, and of course that gets you thinking, oh, that was like somebody wanted to buy something I've made. That's amazing, you know. So I then looked around, and there's people make so many different sorts of lamps, but I was determined to find something different that I wanted to make. And the problem with me is I'm a little bit of a pedant. I mean, Steph will say that I've got pedantry Tourette's, in that I just have to, everything has to be, you know, that little bit better than it needs to be for me. So I was a bit worried because creatively, I would have to make sure everything was perfect in a way. Then I found pipe fittings. Now, when I grew up in the 60s, my granddad, who was a builder and a plumber, he had all pipe fittings in his shed, and it took me right back. When I started to see the galvanized and brass pipe fittings, I thought, you know, I could make something out of that. So I looked online, and people were making abstract lamps out of pipe fittings. But so I thought, yeah, so I started doing a few of those, and then they sort of became robots, really, in that they looked a bit like people. So I made a few of those, but that didn't really satisfy me because there was other people making those as well. Nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to make something a bit different. So then I got onto the idea of doing proper character lamps. And then people, I think the first character lamp I did, really, what was it? It was probably Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I did it, a guitarist, and because somebody wanted me to do a lamp, and it was quite an easy one because he'd got quite an easy looking stance. He hunched over his guitar, and you could buy these little miniature guitars that were exact replicas of the original guitars that these rock stars used to do. So I did that, and it was brilliant. And then I realized that I could take that further and do other people, not just rock stars, but do sports people. And then I started to take commissions, in that people would send me photographs of who they wanted me to depict in lamp form. So I've done Bruce Springsteen, I've done Slash from Guns N' Roses, I've done Angus Young from AC/DC. Not all rock people, but a lot of people like a rock guitar in a lamp. And so these pipe fittings then took on their own meaning. When I see like an elbow, I don't think of a pipe elbow, I think of a human elbow, or a shoulder, or a knee, or an ankle. And so that's how it developed. And as far as I know, there's certainly nobody else in the UK that does this sort of thing, because it's just the amount of stock you have to have in order to do this is absolutely immense, you know. So you have to have thousands of pieces, because you just looking for that strange little twisty curve of a pipe fitting to make that piece of the hand that's going to hold the guitar. So it developed, and it was only about, well, it was after the Bloomz was formed that eventually I called myself an artist. I was just I was just a crafter. I was just making lamps. And Steph just mentioned the lamp I did of Slash from Guns N' Roses. That was a commission for a radio DJ called Leona Graham from Absolute Radio over here in the UK. She's a huge rock musician fan, rock fan, and she's met Slash, and she wanted me to do a lamp of Slash. And so I did that, and then I got approached by Slash's, because that went up online, and I got approached by Slash's PR team in Beverly Hills, who said, could I make a lamp of Slash for Slash? So I did. Now, if you don't know who Slash is, you probably don't. Do you know who Slash is? You might, Cindy.
Oh,
do you
yeah.
know who Slash is, Victoria?
I'm afraid not. Sorry.
You will recognise him because he wears a top hat and sunglasses. If I showed you a picture, say, oh, yes. But he's a real hard metal rock star and, you know, incredible. He's not with Guns N' Roses anymore, but so that's what started to happen, is that people are seeing my lamps as really special one-off pieces, which is lovely because I just love doing them, you know, and the fact that somebody wants to buy one is great. But I suppose, and it's only when talking to the Bloomz over the last couple of years do I realise that I go through the same trials and tribulations of any artist, really. Not knowing if something looks good. Do people really want to buy my work? Why do they want to buy it? Of course they want to buy it. And you always go through your head at the same time, you know, and you start something, because my approach is different to other people, is that I don't get a piece of canvas, I get a whole load of fittings and an idea, maybe, if it's just off my own head. But yeah, it's become just so enjoyable.
Well, I think your work is fantastic. So you do yourself a disservice by saying you're not an artist.
Well, no, I do. I'm an artist now, but I wasn't up until I met the Bloomz. Because, you know, up until then, I always thought of artists as being like you two. You paint, because art is anybody who creates something, and other people want to buy it, you know, or maybe not. It's just the creation. It's the process of creation and the passion and the love you put into it that makes you an artist, nothing else. And it doesn't have to be, and I'm realizing it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be, you know, and there's a limit to the amount of effort I can put in. But at the moment, I've got no studio. At the moment, we've got nothing. We're moving house, so my studio has been packed up since October. So it's been a bit of a pain. How are we doing for time? I don't want to leave it too. Oh, we're okay. We're all right for time. Does anybody want to ask each other any questions? Any further questions about any?
Yeah.
Julie's just joined. Sorry, Cindy.
I was going to say, how are you surviving without being able to create for so long? Because I could not cope without being able.
It's difficult. It's difficult. It's more difficult when I see Steph still creating, because she's a needle felter, so she can do it on a lap. I can't. So it's been, because we thought we would be into our new house October, then it was November, then December, and looks as though it's going to be the 12th of April now. That's the date that we were sort of officially given yesterday, which is fantastic. And it's just, but I've got a lot going on up here. That's the important thing. I've got a lot going on up there, and he is very difficult, Steph. I'm not difficult. Steph just said he's very difficult. Do
you sketch and keep notes, like make notes and
yes,
and that sort of thing, like since you can't create it?
I just said the same. Are you designing on paper for future projects? I make notes of anything that I want to do. One commission that I've got that I've put on hold because, and the guy didn't want it immediately, was I've got to make the that classic iconic scene from the cover of Abbey Road by the Beatles, with the four of them walking across the zebra crossing. I've got to do each of those full-size people and my normal size lamps but all of them, John, Paul, George and Ringo, all in the colours to match what their outfits are. I think is it Paul that's got a cigarette in his hand and no shoes on, and so that's one that I've been working on.
Wow, that's a big project.
Yes, it is going to be a big project because I've developed, my work has evolved over the last couple of years in that now the majority of my lamp switches are touch sensor switches. I put them on a wooden base, and in the base is a switch, a touch sensor, so you can touch anywhere on the lights to get the light to turn on. But this commission that I've got, he wants all of the 4 Beatles to be independently touch sensor. So we can have George and Ringo on one day. You can have you can have them all on, 3 of them on, 2 of them on, 1 of them on. So that's going to be a massive. It's going to be a hell of a wiring, but great fun.
Wow.
And a couple of years ago, I'd have thought there's no way I could do that. No way. But now you start to think of the process in your head of how you're going to do it, even when you're not in your studio. So I do make notes. Yes, I've got lots of ideas. Some of them probably won't come to fruition because they just won't be possible to do. Oh, Julie's just saying, amazing for you, Stephanie, and the Abbey Road Commission. For those of you who don't know, Stephanie is my partner in crime here. She's in the other room now. And
she was making jokes about when you finally get your studio back, about you not coming out for months.
Oh no, I'll be eating in there. She'll be just opening the door, putting a tray in there, and I've got so much to catch up on in there. But that's the enjoy, and it'll be a bigger studio than I had before, a bigger workshop. It'll be twice the size of what I've had before. So, but we've got to have it built yet at the new place. But yeah, we're getting there. So exciting times there. Exciting times ahead for all of us as artists, because it's a new year, isn't it? So we're quarter the way in now. But so what have we got to plan for this year? Anything special we're doing this year apart from the Bloomz show?
I've got quite a few art events lined up. Obviously the Bloomz is that's the biggest. Yeah, and I would really like to try plein air painting, because I haven't been brave enough to do it as yet.
That'd be great, because I'm sure you'll be showing that on your Instagram feed. If
I'm brave enough.
Oh, you will.
It goes
well. And put a camera, do a live when you're out there. Do a live. Yeah. Even if it's just 10 minutes, people love that, don't they, Cindy? They love to see you work, artists working live, even if it's just a 10-minute live. I mean, I'll get back to doing my regular weekly Sunday afternoon lives as soon as we've got the new place, because there's nothing like going live and chatting to people, and you get more confident doing it. I mean, I'm lucky because I had a background in broadcasting, but yeah, so we look forward to seeing your live painting out in the field. Cindy, what's new for you this year? Anything happening on either side, on the Akashic side or the painting side?
Yeah, I've got some interesting things I'm working on changing coming forward that I'm not really ready to divulge about to the general public. So if you want to learn more, you can come and ask me some questions in my room.
Yes. Yeah.
But apart from that, I've got a few teaching gigs coming up, teaching painting. Coming up later in the year that I'm preparing for, and I'm busy preparing for the art cruise that I'm teaching on next February.
Oh yes, you've got a cruise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
great.
I'm working on sorting out the classes and all the logistics of, getting everybody the equipment needed and all the rest.
You know, once you start doing that, when you're walking around the ship, you won't be left alone.
Yeah.
The passengers will be on you. They'll be asking you stuff even outside of your classes. I can promise you. I did 8-9 years of lecturing on cruise ships, so I know that you just can't go anywhere. You just disappear back in your cabin if you want a bit of a break. Because people, it's a captive audience, and they love to chat to you, and they will love to chat to you. Steph says we need a Bloomz cruise. Oh my God, can you imagine a Bloomz cruise?
We absolutely do. How awesome would that be?
Oh,
come on.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, I think I think we need to wrap up. I think we need to wrap up now because we've been going on for almost 3/4 of an hour, which is great. So just to say then, come and see us, folks. The Bloomz show is the 28th, 29th and 30th of April. It's a free event to attend, but you have to go on to the Bloomz with a Z.co.uk to register for your free tickets. And the reason you have to register is that you get then the special codes to get in to the Zoom show. And if you're thinking, oh no, not Zoom again, I'm zoomed out, it's Zoom like you've never seen Zoom been used before. We have features of Zoom that hardly anybody else uses that we have found, and Zoom have even put in features especially for the Bloomz to make the experience fantastic for you visitors. So you get a chance to see 11 artists around the world, and it will be incredible. You can go into their rooms, into their studio live and speak to them. Now, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been lovely having you both on. And say, you know, it's great that we're in different parts of the country and the world. It doesn't matter. We can chat about art anywhere. I suggest the next one we do is in a sauna somewhere. That would be nice, wouldn't it? The next one isn't in a sauna. The next one is next Wednesday, the 5th of March at 10 a.m. here on the Bloomz Arthouse Instagram feed. And that will be Stephanie Lester, the fibre artist. It'll be Matt McGregor, the visual artist. And it will be Elisa Colangeli, the Italian figurative and soul painting artist. And that was Henry doing his farewell walk across the back of Stindy's neck. Bye, Henry. Hello, Henry.
Bye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
That's okay. Lovely talking to you. Take care now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you all at the Bloomz show in 3-4 weeks' time.
See you then.
Bye.